If you don't want this to happen,
And flick.
no, we meant this one.
What? Watch it!
Then you need to stay tuned to this video. It's getting windy, Eddie.
So see the 8309 asked, I've watched setup videos but have never seen anyone address wind ratings. Can you give us an idea about safe versus unsafe weather conditions? Thanks, guys.
So if you feel like Zeus is coming down, then it's probably not safe. But what's our policy on this?
Well, here's the thing. I'm talking from personal experience. And here in Texas, it gets windy, but I know like up north,
Chicago.
like it's really windy, some of these cities. So one thing that I've learned from experience is the wind rating. Like I'll look at the weather and it'll say like, hey, it's a 20 miles an hour wind. Okay, no problem, because I've set up in 20 miles an hour wind. But if the wind hits a certain area that you're trying to set up different, like sometimes there's like valleys, if that makes sense. And the way that the wind hits the valley, it increases. I don't know if it's like kind of like what's it called? Like concentrates the wind to punch that specific area. Because I've been on a site before, and I was like, oh, 20 mile an hour, no problem. So I'm setting this thing up, and when I go to go up with the legs, and next thing you know, I'm being dragged by this tent. Like I'm talking about like literally like maybe 20 feet. I'm dragged, and it's not up yet. It was a high peak. It was a 20 by 20. I put the legs on it. I put the straps on it on the cement block to hold it. And these blocks are like, I don't know, like 350 pounds or whatever. And so this thing drags me this distance and the person's like, are you okay? And I'm like, oh, my pants are all tore up because my pants are all tore up because I was on concrete, and it basically gave me like, well, not carpet rash, but like concrete rash, ripped me up, and I'm like,
yeah, Mr. Pinky.
And I told the person, I'm like, we're not setting this thing up, and they're like, we have to. And I was like, you see what it did to me? Like, we're not gonna do this, but
turn the opposite way.
Yeah, every tent has a tent rating on it, so just look at your manufacturer. You don't even necessarily have to buy the tent to look at it. You just look on the website; they'll give you like the wind rating and stuff like that. Well, that's what it's rated for.
Yeah, and we'll put a graph up here that shows some general research that we pulled up.
Yeah, so like cross cables, West Coast, pole tents, even frame structure tents. They're gonna all have different wind ratings, and some are easier to put up.
So let me get this straight. So you said it's not how big the boat is in the ocean, but how much motion in the ocean when the tent flows up.
Yeah.
Is that what we talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
Or is that from a text different? You're talking
Well, I
about
don't know. That sounds good, but I'll say that sounds great.
What you were talking about?
Yeah, something like that. But like even like for instance, like a lot of these structures that go up, the part that the wind can grab and blow on is actually the top. You know, anything, because it has more surface area to blow on. So like a lot of times on these structures, you're just building the frames up, and you're not gonna have no problems. And then they'll go in the little tracks, and they'll feed up, which, you know, at that point everything's anchored down. Versus other ones, you know, you have to put the top on it, and it's all the, so it varies, to be honest with you. But I generally just I go out on the site and see, you know, if it's 20 miles an hour or, you know, below, we will generally go ahead and do it. But, you know, once it gets up there in like 25, 30 and stuff like that, and you're going to push the tent up, that's when it starts getting kind of iffy, because, you know, for bigger tents, you're going to use like tent jacks and stuff like that. But when the wind grabs it, a lot of times it just takes it straight off the tent jack, and then now you're having fun, and it gets kind of sketchy, and you're like trying to put the leg in, hoping the wind doesn't drop
like that
this
one
thing
video.
down. And
yeah,
but yeah, it's a lot of stuff. But good rule of thumb: you try not to do it. You take everything with precaution over 20 miles an hour. But
yeah,
it can take more wind than that. But.
So also too, one thing we did learn, if this is the ultimate checklist, make sure you get it down below. But it said ultimate checklist is the tent. If the wind is blowing at the back side of the tent, you have less risk for the tent to get pushed this way. But when you do set up, don't really matter what miles per hour you set up on it. If the wind is going underneath the tent, then it's just a parachute. And you're going to be doing like, when there's people on the thing, like, hold on, wait.
Hold on. No, just don't even hold on. Let it go.
Let it go. Because the tent's going to be fine, and you most likely not.
Yeah, and another thing that affects is sidewalls. Like, it's just basically like a big sail. Like, once the wind pushes through in the tent and has something to push against, which are the sidewalls, it's going to be able to make, it's going to be able to do more moving around. And more moving around, stakes get loose. And that's why you use, the stake bar, because you want multiple stakes on certain areas. But, just all these things that come in consideration. But, for the most part, the more surface area the wind has to push against, the more risk things happen. So, like, if you have, like, a big thunderstorm coming in, a lot of times what we do is we'll take off the sidewalls, and we'll even drop the legs sometimes because we don't want the wind to punch underneath it. But otherwise, we've been in situations where, we're too far out. The job's like 2 hours away or something like that. And we'll just come out and just, call next insurance, and they'll take care of everything because, some of those things that you can't do anything about it, but just tell the people, to evacuate it, because when you get like a tornado or stuff like that coming through, you really cannot do anything about it.
Because the house can't stand for that. Yeah. If you ever, yeah. But just when you set up, just like they said, it's different stuff you can do. Generally, just for your safety, always have it attached to a stake. Even like literally anything's better. Even if you only got water barrels, use a water barrel. It's better than you on there. It'll work better than you trying to hold it. Just have it attached to something. And then also too, it just depends on what you're trying to do for the most part. But as long as you have it when you put it up and you have it attached to some type of anchoring point, it'll just make it a lot easier to do. Specifically, that is rated over 300 pounds or more for each leg for whatever you're doing. Now, like Eddie said too, like now once you get the tent up, it's a whole different thing. These tents, when they're properly set up, can be at what you said, like 50 miles per hour for most of them.
Yeah, like 50, they're around up there, 50,
Yeah, not
65.
no pop-up tent though.
No. Yeah.
Not
Pop-up
no pop-up
tents are
tent.
not.
Pop-up tent. We came back. The pop-up tent structure was locked down, but the whole top,
Destroyed.
everything's destroyed.
Yeah,
Besides,
because
the legs were just standing up like this.
Yeah, the whole thing's shifting. That's the main thing. When the wind's pushing it, it's not just coming in like one wind. It's like multiple gusts. The gust is what really gets you. Like when it pushes through, that's when it does the most damage. And if it's not staked down properly or installed, then that's when you start having issues.
Yeah, but usually if you don't do what you gotta do, and surprisingly, this one guy showed us if you don't have a stake bar and you have shorter hook stakes, this guy showed me a specific way of how to get them down.
Stake.
Yeah, you double stake them and lock them into each other, so when one pulls on one, it pulls on the other, and you can do some interesting stuff with that. But for the most point, you really just want to really just want to have stuff latched down. So when you're putting up, you have it staked up, or you have it put to a cement block that actually weighs something.
500 pounds.
Or if you, even like when we use a couple times, we do use water barrels and stuff for things. It's like you got to have it staked to something, because I know we talked about water barrels bad, but water barrels are better than not having nothing. I 100% guarantee that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
If I knew what we knew in that 140 by 80, we would have just did the whole thing in water barrels, because at least the tent would have still been fine. It would have been less issues. But when you need to have at least a certain amount of weight, no matter what you do. Yeah. But thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Xavier Kelly.
I'm Eddie Sauceda.
And we're the rental boys and gals. And make sure you subscribe, like down below, and then comment down any questions you have so we can answer them in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Get that ultimate checklist as soon as possible. Hugo said he's trying to pay his rent, so we need this. And guess what? How much is it, Eddie?
It's free.
For free!